I saw you just competed in what I believe is your first competition, of
hmm
which you got second place. Major props to that.
Thank you.
So, why BJJ, and what is something you experienced in this competition that maybe you didn't expect? Welcome back to Call Her Doctor, where we're going to speak openly and honestly about all things health and life related, from to women in healthcare to women everywhere. And welcome back to season 2. I am one of your hosts, Dr. Sarah Zwink, and here with me, as always,
I'm your other host, Dr. Loren.
I don't know if you noticed the difference. We actually have video this time, so welcome. Massive props to Loren. We changed our schedule so she doesn't have to roll out of bed on the West Coast.
Here to spill the tea.
I love that you literally spilled the tea because we're here to spill the tea about you. Today's episode to launch off season 2 is going to be a little interview all about Dr. Loren Couture. Couture.
Yeah.
Couture. I have prepared a list of questions here, of which you're not aware of any of them. And let's do a little generic. Tell me who you are, age, what you do, and where you're from.
Oh, okay. Starting out easy. I'm a little nervous for these questions. My name is Loren, obviously. I'm 26. I'm from the Bay Area, California, which is the best place on earth, but I moved to San Diego almost a year ago. So San Diego is now home. What was the other part of that? What do I do? Oh, I do a lot of different things. I am a functional nervous system based chiropractor by day. I'm a martial artist by night. Yeah, those are the main things that I do.
I think that's fair. I think if I had to mention 2 things you do, those are the 2 things, which is great because that does bring me to one of my questions, which is a 2-parter. Why BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? And I saw you just competed in what I believe is your first competition, of which you got second place. Major props to that.
Thank you.
So, why BJJ, and what is something you experienced in this competition that maybe you didn't expect? Be it something you learned about yourself, something you just literally didn't know happens in competitions. Tell me a little bit about that.
That's a great question. Why BJJ? I guess the reason why I started doing it to begin with is because I'm very much someone who it goes like 0 to 100 at things. So when I was in chiropractic school, it was like 0 to 100 and I was getting burnt out fast. And my mentor was like, you need other hobbies, you need other things to do. Otherwise this is going to become your life. And that can't be the case for like longevity for career. So then she was like, you should come train at my academy. So that's kind of how it started. Why I like doing it. I mean, I'm a nervous system based doctor, and what other best way to test your nervous system and see how best I'm able to regulate my fight or flight versus rest and digest response when someone's literally coming at me. Like someone's coming for your jugular, like how am I able to like breathe through it, talk myself through it? How am I able to mentally be prepared for it? And something that I recently realized is that it doesn't scare me, and which it kind of should. But I know that I have the tools to able to self-regulate myself. And so in the competition, one of my main tactics was to just breathe. So it's kind of hard to be fighting someone for 5 minutes. That's how long the rounds are in competition. But my main goal was to stay calm and to breathe. And the people who win matches are the people who can breathe, because at least early on in your career, you'll go against a lot of people who are just like, because they're like afraid. They're not know what move to do next. They're afraid of being choked out or whatever, all this kind of stuff. So you're heavy breathing, but how are you able to best regulate your breath when you're in stressful situations? And I feel like that directly translates to my work. And then outside of that, I would say I like it because it gives me goals to work towards. Like working out just for fun was getting old for me. So working out with an intention is really good. And then very last piece of that is just the friends that I've made. Like people who train to fight other people for fun, they have like a discipline and an integrity like any other people that I've ever met in my life. And going into the competition, like it's unlike anything I've experienced, because some of us were cutting weight, some of us were trying to gain weight, some of us were trying to get mentally prepared, because I think this sport is more mental than it is physical in a lot of ways. And to have people that you're training with that are also in that same battle, it's just like they become some of my best friends. So long answer to that question. Those are my 3 things. And then the competition part, that was crazy. That was the craziest experience of my entire life, because
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I told Casey this, my boss, the other day. I was like, I think I blacked out. Like, I don't remember a lot of it because there was just so much adrenaline. And one of the things that I wasn't expecting, or that I guess I learned about myself, is that I personally chose to weight cut and fight in a class 10 pounds lighter than what I was at. And so with that, I like went on a pretty heavy like diet change. I also was training a lot. So I was like becoming a different person basically. And so when I went out on the mat to fight, it was a lot of relying on the skills that I already had and kind of just executing and just breathing through it. But because it was my first time experiencing that, I feel like I lost a lot of strength. Like my second match, I lost 0-0 because she just beat me in endurance, and that's because I think I was just tired.
Yeah.
So,
Fair.
going forward, I will definitely weight cut a lot differently, and all that. But at the end of the day, it was just crazy. And like I said in the beginning, just knowing how to breathe, regulate yourself, doing all of that. And like, even when the judge raises your hand that you won or raises the other person's hand that you didn't, it's just like being like, dang, I just like fought somebody for 5 minutes and just being grateful for that. I don't know. It was crazy. It was very crazy experience. Like my heart rate was crazy.
I still have no interest in doing that, but I will say hearing you speak to it helps me at least understand a little bit as to why there are so many levels to that experience, and it's not just like this brute rot fighting someone for fun. That I know there's a mental side to it, but I don't know that I've ever personally considered that. So listening to you speak to that, I'm like, oh, I kind of see it, and I can clearly see your passion in it too.
Yeah, a lot of people call it human chess because it's like if you're having to think about what move you want to do next, you're already behind. So it's like it's like a mental game, like some people have like spreadsheets and stuff. I haven't gotten that deep, but people, it's like stacking moves together so that you can outbeat your opponent. So yeah, it's very mental, especially when you're tired and you're trying not to get choked out. It's like, how do I just not give up? Discipline in that is crazy. Anyways, moving on.
No, I think, like you said, when you introduce yourself, that's one of the main pivotal parts of your life right now. So I think that's fair to take some extra time on that. Speaking of you, about 2 hours ago, you posted on your personal Facebook page, when's the last time you experienced joy and what were you doing? And I would like to pose that exact question to you.
That's funny. Yeah, it rolls right into that question. The last time, I think the day that I competed was genuinely the most joy I've experienced in a very long time.
Okay.
Partially because of the month and a half-ish of training that led up to it. So it was kind of like that day resembled the last day that I had to cut weight and then I could have fun afterwards. It resembled the last day of like hard work. And I'm not saying like I just gave up after that, but it was kind of like I was working towards a goal and I knew that goal was happening that day. And then on top of that, just experiencing something for the first time. And then like all my teammates were there and we were like, we're so close knit. So like all day we were like running around the mats, like cheering each other on.
I love that.
Crazy. And then Casey, my boss, was there and that was a great experience because like when we were in the office that week, or I guess that whole month leading up, I wasn't drinking caffeine or I wasn't doing a lot of stuff because of, trying to get my body prepared. And she was like a huge support for me. Just having my back and so to have her there watching me and then she like bear tackled me at the end. It was really cool.
Oh, that was a little like heartwarming right there to listen to.
Yeah. And then my boyfriend was there too. So that was cool. And then he got to meet my friends and my boss. And I don't know, it was just like an accumulation of like when you've worked for something for so long and it finally becomes real and you know that you've put in the work for it to become real. It's just like worth celebrating. And we actually learned this at the resiliency mastermind of like discipline of, you kind of expect to win at something when you know that you've put in the work for it to become true, and I feel like I put in the work to be disciplined at something. And that's not to say I'm like better athlete, the better person, but I just knew when I sacrificed certain things that like, I deserved to have like a good day, I guess, basically. Yeah, I guess just the accumulation of that, putting in the work, having all my people there to support me, that I wanted to be there, and just, I don't know. It was very fun, very thrilling.
It almost sounds like when you're there on the mat, you're in a sense in a whole different world. And that brings me to my next question, which is, If you could live in any fictional universe, which one would it be and what role would you play?
What do you mean by fictional universe?
Whatever.
Like a movie?
Sure.
That's a good question. I don't know if this is a good answer to your question, but I've always wanted to live in like the 70s or the 80s to feel like what it was like to, live without technology and actually just
I'll accept it.
up
Yeah,
that
because I
way.
almost I almost asked if there were a different decade or era. So go ahead with that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's like a fictional fantasy, but I'm just like, I don't know, that would be simpler times. My immediate thought was The Sandbox. It's my favorite movie, and like just how the kids just like go in the backyard and play baseball, and like there would
I love
just
that.
be no worry. So like, I guess that's my fantasy, is to just live in that world where you're not like preoccupied by like social media or calling people on the phone or whatever. It's just that's just, I don't know, just
Good.
enjoying life.
To be like a 90s kid again, basically.
Yeah,
I kind of love that.
yeah.
Well, speaking of childhood, you went to an all-girls high school.
Mm.
Tell me. And I don't know that you would tell me if there is an answer to this, but we'll try. Were
Okay.
there any quirky or interesting traditions being at that school, like secret societies or bizarre traditions?
Ooh, bizarre traditions. Well, going to an all-girls school was super liberating because
Really?
yeah, so there's an all-boys school right across the street. So
Classic.
we didn't uh they say it's an all-girls school, but I mean really it wasn't. The only thing that was true is that your third and fourth period during the day before and after lunch were with all girls, but then other than that, it was like commingled.
Got it.
Um, so I don't know if it was a tradition, but usually that period, like third and fourth period, were like before and after lunch. So it was like girls doing makeup in the bathroom together. Like in those classes, you're all just like hanging out, gossiping before like the bell rang to go walk across the street to see the guys, like all this stuff. So that was cool, and it was very fun because it was like you could literally just I don't know why this stands out to me, but it just does. Like during those times, like you could literally yell down the hall, like, "Who has a tampon?" Like, blah, blah, blah. Like people just didn't give a
I
shit.
actually love that.
It was just like, yeah, some people are like, "Oh, that'd be weird. I wouldn't like that." Don't get me wrong. If it was a straight up all girls school, I don't know if I would like it either. But because it was like we had parts of our day where it was that, and then we had parts of our day that weren't. It was like a good mix. And then I'm trying to think other traditions. I mean, it was a Catholic school, so there's those traditions, but we had like retreats and stuff, which were fun, like sisterhood retreats, just like bonding stuff. That was cool. And then we would have um like our like pep rallies or whatever. I don't know the word you use for those these days. Sometimes we'd have them all girls, and then we'd have them with the guys also. So the ones with girls were super fun because it was like just like giant dance parties and cheering each other on, stuff like those were fun. Yeah, overall it was pretty fun, like having those moments. And then something that else that sticks out in my mind is like on, I don't remember if it was the first Wednesday or whatever, but we all had to wear dress clothes. So we had
Okay.
uniform, but wear like our dressiest dress uniform, and then the guys just had to wear dress clothes. So like every Wednesday it would just be like, like looking across the street, like what are the guys wearing? It was kind of like, and then like picking your man based on like the best dress. Kind of, it was just funny. And then there was the gossip about that. But yeah, those are the main things that stick out.
That's like that just sounds like this little like a piece of Americana of like a teen rom-com. That's actually
Yeah.
like I didn't know this about you, and that's adorable. I had to deep dive through really old Facebook photos of yours to find that
So
information.
casually stalked. It's fine.
Well, here's the thing. When roles reverse and you interview me next episode, there's so much more content to pull from, whereas your digital imprint is not as vast as mine, which was fun because it made it a slight more of a challenge, but also I'm minorly terrified for what you may pull out, but that's fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
You and I, we talked about this. Well, we've talked about this in real life before, but when it comes to the mundane, like what is something that maybe most people think is boring or tedious that you actually enjoy to do?
Yeah, I really like to cook. I like to bake. Some people don't enjoy that. I really enjoy that. I love working out. Like I literally have to go on a run every single morning or else I go crazy. Uh,
Interesting.
some people don't get that, but for me, I'm like I have to move my body right when I wake up. Um, and I'm a freaking nerd for my calendar and color coding it. Like Um, everything being detailed, I'm like, I don't want to call myself OCD because I'm definitely not that, but
Mhm.
everything in my life is color coded. Like people used to make fun of me, not make fun of me, joke at chiropractic school because like my Google Docs for notes would be like hundreds of pages and they would all have a color code. Like on the top, it would be like, if it's red highlighted, it means this is for boards. If it's yellow highlighted, it means review, blah, blah, blah. Like they would have like legends and then everything was color coded. So
Wow.
yeah, so I guess the mundane of organizing things is something that I really like, but it's kind of funny because if you were to look at my room and stuff, you'd be like, I don't believe that. But
Depends on the subject.
it depends on the subject, yeah. So I think color coding organization I love.
Interesting.
Mm.
Okay. I think that counts because I want to be that person, but I'm not. That was not my experience in school. What is the last thing that you failed at?
Ooh, that's a tough question because sometimes failure is just something you learn. But
Mhm.
I think something that I failed at, I guess to make it a little bit of a deeper answer, like during the summer, I was like riding a high of like, having a lot of business wins, personal wins. I was living in sunny San Diego, like all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, like fall/winter time hit and like business went downhill pretty fast.
Mhm.
A lot of things I was working towards, I think I was riding a high too much and I forgot to like keep chipping away in that aspect. Um, and it required a lot of self growth. It gave me a lot of anxiety, like almost like to where I was having like panic attacks. And I haven't had that in a long time.
Mhm.
Um, and then I just like wasn't as committed to my routines. Like during the summertime, I was like had a workout routine. I had a morning routine. I was reading books. Like during that time, I just gave up on all of it because I was like, I don't have time for it. I just have time to make this business better. But then I knew at the end of the day that like if I did my morning routine and my nighttime routine, then I would be better set to succeed in my business and personal life.
Mhm.
And I just let myself believe that it wasn't the case. And so that's why I guess in January I was like, I'm recommitting to like smaller habits and smaller goals because I think that I let myself down a little bit because I kind of forgot. I kind of let myself become overwhelmed, become consumed by the overwhelm.
Mhm. I find that very relatable, and I think that listeners will as well, and especially if you work in any sort of smaller practice or smaller business or are an entrepreneur, that whole, like, get wrapped up in the excitement of things going well that you for me and kind of what I heard is it's, like, a very common mistake of we forget all the background systems that need to be running to keep things steady, um, and I say this kind of currently going through that, honestly. Honestly. So
Yeah.
I feel like I definitely resonate with that,
Yeah.
and I also think that's a hard lesson, not that in the times to actually almost fix that is, like, bringing it back down to the simple building blocks of things, even though it might not feel like it's the most overtly productive use of your time, but it's also realizing that, like, that's what got you thriving in the first place.
It's tough. And the worst part is like feeling like you let yourself down or other people too, because I know I definitely let my team down. Like our
Mhm.
team at the end of the year, it was like, oh, forgot to do that, forgot to do that. And it was just like I let myself be consumed by being overwhelmed, I think.
What is one way you've helped yourself process and shift that narrative internally so that we can move forward? And so instead of living in like this guilt and shame spiral, you're now it's like,
Mhm.
okay, that happened. I'm human and now I'm moving forward. What did that look like? What does
Yeah.
that look like?
Yeah. I think what it looked like was at the beginning of the year, I had to tell myself, like, what the heck am I doing? And it was
Mhm.
like, um, after reading some books and then going to the mastermind, like all that stuff kind of happened at the right time, I think, of just relearning like what does discipline mean? What do I want it to mean in my life? Because ultimately we learned that discipline is your ability to trust yourself.
Oof.
So was how can I make small promises to myself and keep them for long term so that I know that I'll come out on top? Kind of like what I was talking about with training and stuff. Like for
Mhm.
comp day, I want that same energy going into my business. So it was like, how can I make small wins every day? They don't have to be huge things so that I can trust myself that I'm moving the needle in the right direction. And so for me, that was literally like cold call 1 lead a day. Like, could I have sat there and called like multiple and actually gotten more successful at it? Sure. But I wanted to prove to myself that I could do really small things for a long
Mhm.
period of time. And so I was like, how long of a stretch can I go on with doing these small things, even if it's just posting one thing a day. You know, like if I really want to get my message out there, I could post multiple things on multiple platforms. But once again, I think that's what led to like getting burnt out and all this stuff. So it's just making smaller commitments to myself, regaining that trust in myself that I, you know, have my own back and I got my team's back. Because when I show up as my best self, then I'm showing up my best self for other people as well. And then the overwhelm doesn't become so much. And so I think over time I've proved to myself that I'm capable of doing what I need to do for myself to then get back on track. And none of these were huge leaps. They were just small increments, like I mentioned. But I think that helped change a lot.
I feel like we could almost even do a whole episode of those smaller shifts. We've talked about habits before, but like from a personal shifts bleeding into professional life outcomes. I want to almost ask you more about that now, but for the sake of time and for the sake of this interview, I would like to enter the rapid fire phase.
Oh, geez.
5 questions, including, what is a guilty pleasure pastime?
Oh my God, watching The Bachelor.
Oh my God.
For sure. With the bottom of my popcorn.
Fair. What is a deceased artist that you wish you could see? Or who?
Deceased? Dang. Avicii?
That's my answer. This one might not resonate with you, but we're gonna go for it. What is your Taco Bell order?
Oh, I love Taco Bell. It's a chicken quesadilla.
Okay, solid. Okay.
Or Doritos. I don't even know if they'll have those anymore. The Doritos Taco, Locos Taco. Those can slip.
Everything's fine. Hold on.
Taco Bell sounds fire right now. I won't even lie.
Okay, Doritos Locos Taco after I drop my phone on the floor. What's the last song you listened to on your Spotify?
The last song I listened to was, I think it was Put a Praise on It. I've been listening to a lot of like worship songs, and I was listening to that playlist, and I'm pretty sure it was Put a Praise on It. I could tell you for sure, but my laptop is currently not loading, so I'll just tell you that I was listening to my worship song playlist.
Okay. I will accept that answer this time. What is your last Google search?
Depends if you're asking on my phone or on my laptop.
Well, unfortunately, we are recording on our phones, so I will accept laptop.
Last night I bought plane tickets home, so that was something. I don't know if I Google searched it, but I mean, everything else on my laptop is pretty much like work related, so it's not Google. Or I Googled, I think I would Google plane flights. I'm pretty sure that would be an accurate answer. I just did that last night.
That's not very juicy, Lauren, but I will accept it.
I don't know how to give you a more juicy answer.
Final question for you today. What is one takeaway, one thing that you would hope people get after they've interacted with you?
Oh. One thing that I always hope for in any interaction that I have is just like honesty and genuineness. Like I just like to just show up as myself, and that took a while for me to get there. I will say that. Like I used to be way shyer than I am right now. Way less confident. I don't think I'm like confident by any means, but I'm just like comfortable in who I am. So I think that like when I tell people something, like I mean it and it's the truth. Like I'm never gonna be like fake about anything. So I think, yeah, it's kind of funny because sometimes I'll say stuff and people will be like, "Oh, you meant that?" I'm like, "Yes." Like why would I lie? Like I don't know. Like I'm just like
I think you've done that to me a couple dozen times.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just can't lie about stuff. It's not in my nature. So just honesty and transparency, and I just like you're always gonna get the real me, I think.
I think that's very true. Knowing you.
Someone asked me today, who was it? I said something and they're like, "You're a Taurus, huh?" I was like, "How'd you know that?" They're like, "I just know." And I was like, okay.
I don't know if being identified as a Taurus is a compliment, and I say that as a Taurus.
I know. That's why it's fun.
Lauren, it has been a privilege. It has been I can't say that word. It's been a blast. It's been a privilege. I purposely didn't grill you about our careers because I also think that should be a separate episode in and of itself. I want to make this Loren and not necessarily Dr. Loren. So, with that, do you have any final additions you would like to make to your interview?
It's almost baseball season, so go Giants. That's one of my favorite People think it's a hidden passion, but it's a very direct passion of mine. It's just watching baseball. So go Giants, and Love Is Blind season 6 about to pop off.
I know.
It's raunchy dating TV and baseball, like, and a nice bottle of wine. Like, that's all you need to make me happy in this lifetime.
Noted. Noted. Oh,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Well, this has been a pleasure. I am so freaking excited to be back for season 2 of Call Her Doctor.
Yeah.
This is a cool new format. This is gonna be a good ride. So thank you for being our first episode.
Thank you for interviewing me. This is fun and
You're so
unexpected.
very welcome. Well, next week the tables are going to be turned, and I realized I should have volunteered to go first, so I couldn't have set a tone for your interviewing me. But here we are.
I'll be creative.
It'll be good. It'll be good. All right, friends. We will see you next week on our next episode of Call Her Doctor. Bye.
Bye.